Okay, today I'm going to be exposing the dark truth about Dr. Greg Doucette and why he was a fake natty for 14 years and has lied to you about it. Not only is he a pathological liar, but he's also a lawyer, and I'm going to show that and prove that to you today. Sit back, relax, grab a protein shake because this is about to get good. But first, let me just explain to you. I am not a doctor. I'm not Greg's doctor. I'm not Baby Naki's doctor. And most importantly, he is not my doctor. Everything that is said in this video is my own opinion. It has no true value. And you should not believe a word I say. And you should not believe a word he says, because neither of us are doctors or lawyers. Except for maybe he is a lawyer. Let's find out. So, who is this Dr. Greg Doucette? Or as his haters like to call him, Dr. Greg Doucette. Well, he's an IFBB pro bodybuilder and world record holding powerlifter. He's pretty famous. He has 152,000 subscribers that he mainly got this year, doing way better than me on there, that's for sure. And he has about 60,000 Instagram followers. He has competed in over 100 bodybuilding and powerlifting competitions, holds a Guinness World Record for the most sumo deadlifts in 1 minute, so most total weight lifted using sumo deadlift in a minute. Pretty crazy, check this video out. And he has a master's degree in kinesiology from St. Francis Xavier University. And as he always likes to brag about, he had the highest GPA in his class, 3.93 out of a 4.0. He claims to have started taking training seriously at the age of 10 years old, and to have worked out naturally until November 28, 2009, when he failed a drug test at a powerlifting meet. This means he trained naturally for about 24 years according to him, while doing 42 natural shows. However, he's hiding his dark past. Look at this man lift, one right after the next. Don't die there, little manlet buddy. Before I expose him as the 14-year fake natty, let's look at some of his statistics. He is 44 years old and he was born September 15th in 1975. He's pretty short. He's only 5 foot 6.5 inches. And at his last bodybuilding show, he competed in men's classic physique, and he had a weigh-in under 185 pounds. And he probably showed up around 6 to 8% body fat. Personality, extremely blunt. Let me repeat that, extremely blunt.
I'm 300 pounds and now I'm 200 pounds, and it's because of fasting. And they type me all these messages. And I have hundreds of these stupid messages. And it freaking drives me insane. I hate it. I read it, I'm like, my brother, don't comment, don't write them back. And I'm like, how do I do this? I care so much about telling them they're morons. How do I do this? And it's so hard, and I just can't read the messages. This happens to me every freaking... No, but we've been told it doesn't make you fat. No, that's stupid. It's not April Fool's. It's stupid. She is an idiot. She is an idiot. She is an idiot. She can't be stupider than this. Very well behaved. Okay, so speaking of pigs, let's talk about Stephanie Buttermore and her all-in approach and its results. Now, she is in fact not a pig. She describes herself as being a whale. I eat stupid all week and eat like a moron on the weekend, and it's balance. And oh, if I overeat, I go for a 10-kilometer walk. I better walk it off right away. That's like disordered eating, folks. He sells a 4-week shred program, 4 weeks to get shredded. Guess how much fruit is on it? A zero. Zero fruit.
So as you can tell, Greg is extremely blunt. So let's look up the definition on a blunt in the library. It pretty much explains Greg to a T. Blunt is someone who speaks in a direct, often rude way. An example of blunt is a man telling his wife she looks fat in the dress she's wearing. Well, Greg pretty much does that too.
He's going all in for health and fitness. So that's awesome. So just to give you a background, she has Crohn's disease, she had surgery, she was in the hospital for months, she's 5'8", and she's now 156 pounds at 36% body fat. So Miss Obesity here, she's got to lose some weight to get healthy.
Babe.
33% is average and obese. 25% for health, so she has 11% to go to be in her healthy zone, okay? Polar opposites in food. I've never met anyone that eats worse than her or more than her as a woman in my life, ever. Any guy that's come and eat with us is like, how does your woman not weigh 200 pounds? And I'm like, well, she did gain 25 pounds of fat, but she's lucky her metabolism's fast.
Okay, so I think we could all pretty much agree. We all wish we could kind of talk to our girlfriend or wife like that. Even though it's pretty rude, he can just speak the truth. Now, his celebrity look-alike, aka his celebrity sound-alike, is Lago from Aladdin. Check it out.
Up with all the good ideas. Me! Who does all the work? Me!
If it weren't for me, you'd still be in a cage at the bazaar, squawking, Polly won't a cracker!
That's it! I've had it! I hate to be dramatic, but it's time for me to...
Now that we have a better understanding of who this Dr. Greg Doucette is, let's go all the way back to when he was just 10 years old. This is when he started to become a pathological liar. And a couple years later, he'd become a 14-year fake natty and go on to become a lawyer. Check it out. Let's look at it. As you can see from the chart here, I went ahead and took Greg's age, starting at 13 all the way to 44, his weight, and then calculated his FFMI. So at the age of 13, he was only 128 pounds, and now at the age of 44, he is, for his last show, he dieted down all the way down to 185 pounds. So he's put on about 50 pounds of muscle, 47 pounds of muscle over the last 31 years. Pretty good. Now, to understand Greg's dark past, we need to go back to when he was 10 years old. The story goes like this. At the young age of 10, Dr. Greg Doucette became and started to learn how to be a pathological liar. He started training at the age of 10 down in his family's basement. However, his dad got injured weightlifting down there and decided it was not safe for his kids to be training either. So he forbid his kids, Greg and his brother, from training. However, Greg lied to his parents and would sneak down in the basement and continue to train. Now this, as we can see, is the first time Greg started to become a major liar at the age of 10. Greg continued to train hard, and by the age of 17, he weighed 146 pounds. And so we can see that he put on about 18 pounds in 4 years, which is a good amount of muscle, a good amount of weight, but however, it's not crazy. He's young, he's growing, and so it makes sense. Fast forward another year, and now he's 18, and he's looking to compete in his first bodybuilding show. He now weighs 147 pounds, so he's only put on about another pound over the year. And you can see here from the photo, he has a great physique. Very good, naturally gifted bodybuilder. Fantastic. And it kind of also makes you question his brother. Like, why is his brother so small and tiny? Does he not train? I mean, they should have the same genetics. They're twins. So, I mean, why is he so small? Kind of weird. Greg went on and competed in the bodybuilding show and did well. He took his first place in his weight class and second overall. However, the person he took second to, this was a drug tested show, and Greg passed the drug test. You know, he was natural and he passed. However, the guy he took second to failed the drug test, and Greg didn't find out about this until about a couple months later. And this is the moment that Greg kind of realized cheating maybe pays off, because the guy who took first, nothing was really done about it. No one really knew about it. He got to keep his trophy, and Greg was there suffering second place. So I think this is when the seed was planted to Greg that, hey, maybe I can cheat and get away with it and not have to suffer the consequences. Fast forward 2 more years, and we see that Greg's now 20 years old. He's a young man, and he's still about the same weight he was the last 3 years. So at 17, he was 146 pounds when he competed, and now he's 20 and he's competing at 145 pounds. So 3 years go by and he's about the same weight he has been over the last 3 years. He's kind of plateaued. So if you look on the chart, you can see he's kind of plateaued. And so this is when things get interesting. This is when Greg becomes a fake natty, is after this show. So he takes 3rd place in junior nationals for that, and then overall he takes 4th place. And I think all the past combined, when he started lying at a young age about working out, and then he realized in his first show that cheating pays off, because the guy who got first, nothing really happened to him, and now he gets third. So he's like, well, and he's plateaued for the last 3 years, and so now he's like, oh man, I want to do better. I want to get better. I have good genetics. It's time to hop on gear. I'm just going to lie about it. So after the show, he jumps on gear and he starts progressing again. So you see, if you're on the chart, at 20 years old, he weighed 145 pounds. Fast forward 5 more years, he's now 149 pounds. Not a lot, but he's now progressing again. He's increasing, and his FFMI is now at 23. It's getting up higher. Now we fast forward a couple more years, and he's now 31 years old, and he weighs 169 pounds. Very suspicious. And his FFMI is 26.1, which most people consider natural FFMI to usually be 25 and below. So this is very suspicious at this point. And we see there's a lot of evidence showing that after this show, he even admits it in his own video, that after this, his show when he was 20 years old, this is when he started breaking a bunch of records in powerlifting. He competed in like 14 different powerlifting meets, passed all 14 drug tests, but he was breaking all sorts of powerlifting records at this point. So he goes from plateauing to starting to gain muscle, and he's breaking a ton of records as he does it. Not only is he just breaking tons of powerlifting records, but his physique just goes to the next level. It goes from just being kind of like his plateaued average level to all of a sudden it's like way better. Let's look at these photos right here. Check it out. So as you can see on the left, he's 20 years old, competing in his last natural show in my opinion. And then on the right, just a couple years later, he's now massively bigger and he's gained a bunch of weight. His FFMI is super suspicious now. It's over the natural limit. Just doesn't make sense. This then brings us to now Greg is 34 years old and he's 174 pounds with an FFMI of 26.9, just highly suspicious. And this is like right before he gets caught for being a fake natty. I mean, he fails a drug test. And this also brings me into my next point I wanted to discuss. Is in his video on himself, is he natty or not, he mentions that he was at least natty on that day, which I think is a scary mentality. I think his mentality is, oh, if I'm not taking steroids on that day and I'm past the drug test, I'm natural that day. But no, if you've been taking them any time in the past, even if you cycle off a couple weeks out, you're still a fake natty. You're still enhanced. So just because you cycled off and you passed the drug test doesn't mean you were natural on that day if you were taking them in the past.
Does the fact that he passed that drug test mean he's natural? No! He might have taken tests and cycled off and just passed. But on the day of that event, he was natural, at least on that day.
Thank you, Greg. You just told us exactly how you did it. You explained it right to us. You cycled off, and on that day, you claim you were natty. However, you weren't because you'd done it in the past, and if you do it in the past, you're not natural in the future. So you weren't natural that day either. All right, this now brings us to when it gets really dark and when he becomes his own lawyer. So at age 34, he now gets busted as a fake natty at one of his powerlifting meets. November 28, 2009 will go down in infamy. At the Eastern Canadian Championships, this is when Greg failed his first drug test. He finally got busted for being a fake natty. He had a TE ratio of 8-1, and it should only be 6-1. So he's clearly taken some performance enhancement. And he didn't even dispute it. He's like, he knew he didn't. He didn't even try to dispute it. He said the test results, I do want to point out that I was not trying to cheat the system, and had I been knowingly using a banned substance, I never would have competed at the meet. However, he's a pathological liar, and if you look in the future, he uses these same excuses. If we look in the future, he does competitive cycling, and he tried to use the same excuse. Had he known it was drug tested meat, he wouldn't have been there. However, he's kind of had a pattern of lying. He also said, had I actually tried to artificially enhance my lifting, I would have used Anavar and Androl or something much more performance enhancing. Considering I was dying for most of the year, EQ would be the dumbest drug I've ever taken. However, he ignored the fact that his test levels were a little too high. It just doesn't really make sense. Greg wasn't telling the truth when he was younger, and he wasn't telling the truth now. He just waited till he got caught before he admitted taking his steroids. So over the last 14 years, in my opinion, he was just lying about it and waited till he finally got caught to admit to it. Now we fast forward to 2012. 2012 when things get really bad for him. Good but bad. So he wins the 2012 Canadian National Bodybuilding Championships, and this earns him his prestigious pro card that he's always wanted and always brags about. and that was part of the IFBB. However, that achievement was short-lived. Just a week later, Doucette was charged on August 24, 2012. Officials found $250,000 of performance-enhancing drugs and seized $23,000 in case from his Halifax home. Now that's pretty serious. A couple years later, all the court proceedings happened, and in 2014, Doucette paid $52,000 in fines after being successfully charged with. He was not only charged with possessing, smuggling, importing, trafficking, and distributing anabolic steroids. That's pretty serious. He's not just taking them, but he's smuggling them, he's importing them, he's trafficking them, and he's distributing them to others. That's pretty serious crimes there. So if he's willing to do something like that, what makes you think he's actually telling the truth when it comes to his natty status over those past 14 years? This then brings us to Greg's most recent incident in 2017 when he competed in cycling and he failed another drug test. So he claims he didn't realize it was a drug tested cycling event. However, cycling events are drug tested, and he refused to pee in a cup. And so they banned him for 8 years from competing in cycling. And so he was supposedly surprised that he was going to be asked to pee in a cup, and he thought the DCO, the drug tester, was some random creep pretending to be a DCO that he could watch him pull out his penis and pee in a cup, which, who believes that? I mean, obviously it's a drug tester, come on now. And so he made a lot of excuses, and this is where we find out that Greg is actually a lawyer. He chose, instead of bringing his own lawyer, he chose to represent himself in the court decision, and he had a lot of excuses. So he argued he did not read the parts of the BNS license agreement, which stated that he would be agreeing to subject to the CAPD regulations and testing. Come on now. I mean, that's your own fault if you don't read it. It's just like on a test. You need to read the instructions and answer accordingly. If you don't participate and you don't read, then that's your own fault. And he also tried to argue that the athlete refusal form was altered after he signed it. Like, come on now, it wasn't altered. I mean, you just didn't read it and pay attention. And if that's the case, you brought this on yourself. I mean, and to think of some random creep, come on now. He even states in his most recent video that the real reason, and besides all the excuses he made, was because he had just done some marijuana and he didn't want to test positive for it back then. So, once again, lying again. Okay, so in summary, we can see that at the age of 10, he became a pathological liar, and then he's continued that trend all throughout the rest of his life. And so he was natural from the age of, since he was born until he was about 20 years old, when he realized, he took third at junior nationals and fourth overall, and he realized, I'm not going to be able to succeed and do better without these steroids. So then he takes steroids after 20 years old and starts breaking all sorts of state records in powerlifting. His physique also goes from very good for a natural to outstanding. And then finally he gets caught in a powerlifting meet and only admits to using steroids once he finally gets caught. Then he goes on, gets caught with a bunch of drugs, gets charged with possessing, selling, importing, all this stuff, drugs, huge thing. And then on top of that, and he keeps lying about everything, and then he keeps, on top of that, he goes and cycles and refuses to take another drug test and represents himself in the court case. So he's now a lawyer. And all that to say, he's been lying and proved that Dr. Greg Doucette was a fake natty for 14 years. So, thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, tap the bell button, and it goes woof, as Dr. Greg likes to say, and subscribe. As always, I do actually really enjoy Dr. Greg Doucette's videos. He's absolutely hilarious, great content on YouTube, funny guy, and just want to make this content just for fun. No hate towards Greg if he watches it. Love your content, man. Keep it up, and peace.
You gonna do? Yeah. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What what you gonna do when they come for you? When you were 8 and you had bad traits, you go to school and learn the golden rule. So why are you acting like a bloody fool? If you get hot, then you must get cool. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna